Hi, it's Wayne again, your boy Montana, showing some of you guys how I sort of run things over here in my studio and my setup. A few people have asked me how I sort of integrate this baby with the rest of my gear, which as a snapshot sort of looks like that. Can go through a little bit more in detail. I don't profess to be an expert on any of this stuff. I just sort of post what works for me. Some people like it, some people don't like it. The decision is yours with that, I guess. This is particularly for Amir, who's asked me how do I integrate the MIDI with the TMD 8000. So I'll show you how I do that, I guess. Previous post showed you how I sort of connected up into Logic and use a play, stop, record, and all that kind of stuff. Amir asked me about the MIDI side of things, so I'll show you a little bit how I do that now, I suppose. Okay, so, and I apologize for the narrow video, but I'm doing this off an iPhone. I will get around to shooting some stuff eventually on a camcorder, but for now, that's how I roll, baby. Okay, so, my MIDI stuff is coming through one of these, eMagic AMT8. In fact, it's not coming through one of them, it's coming through two of them. And that's because, as you can see, and as I said before, I'm quite old school and I've got quite a lot of MIDI stuff. So I've used pretty much 7 of these channels on here. Inputs 8 in and out for guests. So basically, if somebody turns up to the studio, wants to plug in a keyboard and hook up into your system, they can do that. But obviously I'm just using hardwired stuff, I guess, so I don't really use ports 8 on either of them. So this is connected to, I'm a Mac guy as well, so connected to my Mac by a USB cable right around the back. And this is the main baby, and it's connected to this one directly, so they talk to each other. So basically you got your 8 channels, and then this becomes 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on and so forth, up to 16. Each port has 16 channels on it, so 16 times 16 is how many channels I've got available at the moment, which is loads and more than I need. As I said, I am old school, but I do use Logic, and I've got loads and loads and loads of samples in there which I use, and software instruments as well. But I am old school, and I do sort of still like to, as I said, press things and twiddle things and create some sounds. So excuse me, that's how I've got it hooked up into the computer. So as I said, via USB into my Mac, which then goes into Logic. I've got my instruments set up, so if you just excuse me for 1 second while I go into my window, go into the environment window and click some MIDI instruments even, and you can see I've got quite a few there which is all hooked up, and that controls the ports. So for example, if I click on the Roland XV88, which is this baby here, as you can see there, it's on port 1. So anything that comes from the XV8 that's a signal out from the XV88, because I've got it set to active MIDI transmitting, active sensing rather. So anything of these instruments that I've got set to active sensing, you'll see it flash up there, which basically says, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to go. So that's the output from this bottom keyboard, and this will be any signal going into the bottom keyboard. So on and so forth, really. The top keyboard is number 2, which on here is the Korg Triton, as you can see, and all the other instruments there as well that I've got hooked up. So that's essentially how the MIDI side of it works. I hope that's helpful for you, Amir in particular. So once I've got them set up, I've got them hooked up on my arrangement page as well. I don't know if you can see that. So how I've done that, I generally start off as a template audio tracks. These here are software synthesizers, omnisphere, and basses and shakers and stuff, down to the keyboard. So you got the XV88 there. Next is the JV90 Korg Trinity, which I've got in a rack version. I had the keyboard version, but just to save space, but I love the sound in it, so I've got the rack version. Then I've got Korg X5, which is way over there, which I just can't get rid of because some of the sounds are nice in it, and it was my first ever keyboard, so I'm a bit nostalgic about that one as well. Then onto the M3R, which is this baby here, which has got some pretty nice sounds in there as well. I like the Rhodes in there in particular. Old faithful classic, the bass station, which is this baby here. And again, so you can see what's going on there. And right down to the Digitech Vocalist, which is a harmonizer. And I've got Digitech Quad 4, which you can use Logic to put, so going to Quad 4, can set the program changes in there, and it'll change it basically on the front panel, so you can change from one effect to another. To be honest, in recent years I haven't used that as much because I tend to use the effects that are in Logic. I like those are pretty cool, especially some of the good plugins that I've got. Other thing I've got going on is the Korg Micro, which is nice. Looks quite simple, but it's nice for the sort of vocoder sounds. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? You can see how that sort of works out. This baby here is hooked up, so if I bring a laptop in, then I can hook it up, and basically I just use it as a stereo mix going into one of these stereo mix channels over here on the a TMD 8000. In terms of audio, one of the things I'm using is Motu 2408. Again, all this is pretty much old school, but you can use software versions of these things now, but for me I like the old school version. This has got 3 banks of 8 digital Tascam TMD interface going in and out to this baby, so effectively that's where my 24 tracks of audio are going. They just route back here along the desk again in banks of 8, and that's where I get my playback from. So I hope that was useful. If it was, great. If it wasn't, then leave me feedback and we'll hopefully find something that is useful for you. Okay, catch you on the next time, and like I say, next time I'll hopefully hook up a video camcorder so that we can do it that way. Well, one last thing that I forgot to tell you about, which is pretty cool as well, is this baby here, which I use as a controller. You can hit the drum pads on there, and that triggers samples and stuff within your arrangement. Also, fader here, and watch what happens with my fader on Logic. Hey, beautiful. I've also configured it so you can sort of do, if you can see that, pan sweeps in there and all that sort of stuff. And just like on the TMD, keep calling it AMT, TMD 8000, you can press play and stop and record and all that kind of stuff as well. So how I'm getting down is I'm using the transport system on there when I'm doing my mixes, and when I'm just doing recording for putting my ideas in, I use a transport facility on this because it's pretty close to the keyboards where I tend to live. Like I say, hope that's useful for you guys, and catch you on the next time. Peace.